a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All of those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, and can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda. A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. Please raise your hand. All those in favor. Next up is the Board of Ed acknowledgements. Does anybody have any Board of Education acknowledgements you'd like to share?
I like seeing pictures of Matt and candy canes for Christmas.
Yes, that was awesome.
I'll start real quick. January is School Board Appreciation Month, so appreciate you guys serving on the Board of Education and volunteering your time and so forth. At the end of the meeting, there is a little gift here for each of you from the Board of Education and also the culinary department at the high school. They'll all put this together, Mrs. Kathy Wolfpool. So, and then I think you have some administrators probably in the back. So, Mr. Blaustein, you start.
Yeah. First of all, hey, excited to be back. So last week was kind of crazy, right? I mean, we got one day, but good to be back. I think we're going to be in all this week, so I think that's good. It's good for kids and good to see them back in. A couple things. We have Scholars Bowl getting ready to start, which that's an exciting time for our 7th and 8th grade kids, and so I know that they're looking forward to that. And then also, we've got some groups of kids that have been working really hard with KidWin. And so Sherry Guilfoyle works with those kids, and so I know that they'll be looking forward to their competitions. So kind of exciting things going on. And boys basketball started, and we have our first game on Thursday.
All right, we may not be a blue ribbon school like some are, but we have a couple of blue ribbon caliber students that I want to spotlight this month. And the Kansas Masonic Foundation does an essay competition each year, as well as sponsoring a statewide scholarship event. And we had 2 students submit essays to that competition. So Kaden Worthy, I believe, finished second and won a $2,000 prize for that. And then Elie Blackmore was an honorable mention recipient. She got $500. Now here's the neat part about it. They had to write about a charitable cause, and the cause that they wrote about will get $1,000 donated towards them as well. I know one of the benefactors for that will be the food pantry at the high school. So just really nice to see the 2 recognized. Each lodge is only allowed to nominate 1, and so the Paola Lodge nominated Kaden and sent his essay in, and then the lodge up at Spring Hill, we sent 1 in for outreach to get 2 students recognized from our school. I think we're the only school in the state that year. So that was neat. I want to also highlight the Teammates Mentoring Program that we use district-wide. I saw something come across my desk today that I hadn't seen before. They were collecting data, and they wanted to figure out what kind of success they were having with the students that they mentored. So some of the things that Teammates wants to collect, they want to know the GPA of the students involved in the program. They want to know the number of unexcused absences, if the students had any discipline referrals, and then they wanted to track how many times each of those students met individually with their teammate. And so I am pleased to report that the students that are involved in the Teammates program had excellent returns on that. We have a really low number, so I won't share exactly what those are because it's 2 individually specified. So really appreciate those that volunteer their time with Teammates. I know we have some in the room that have done that previously. And then the last thing I just want to highlight, in my board report, I shared some data with you about the pass rate for our students during the first semester. And I was extremely pleased with the data that I shared. The number one thing that stood out to me is in the senior class, we didn't have a single senior fail multiple classes. And that's something that we really hammered home with our freshmen and sophomores in the class meeting today, how well they did. So that's all I have. Thanks.
So you wouldn't think we'd had any activity last week, but we did. One day that we did get in on Thursday, we sent thespians to Wichita. They kind of missed the weather, so they didn't come back till late Saturday, so they were fine down there. Had a little fun in the hotel, but that's a whole different story. So they did a good job down there. 4-speaker debate qualified for state, so they will be going to be only, by the way, the only school in our league that qualified a debate team for state competition. So they'll be going next week, or I'm sorry, this weekend. I believe the Winfield is where that's at. shout out to our wrestling team, boys won Bonner. Over the weekend, our girls went to Blue Valley Southwest. Combined, we had a total of 9 individual champions, 6 on the boys' side, 3 on the girls' side. And a shout out just specifically to Brock Johnson. He got his 100th win at Bonner. Not only that, back up right before Christmas break, we went to the Kansas City Stampede, which is a huge tournament up in Kansas City. And Brock took first in the 138 pound class, which is, it's amazing. I think, did we have one kid podium or place second? We had a couple. Yeah, we had a couple kids get on the podium there, which is amazing. It's a multi-state, huge tournament. Last thing then I have is we were selected as the host for the girls 4A Super Regional Wrestling Tournament, which we will host here. We don't quite know yet if it'll be the 14th and 15th or just the 15th, but we will have all 4A schools on the east side of the state sending their girls to us for regional wrestling. They're only going to have 2, instead of 4 regionals, they're only going to have 2. They'll have 1 on the east side, 1 on the west side, top 8 go on, and so we will be hosting that on, we hope, a 1-day tournament on the 15th, but with the entries we get, we may end up having to go 2 days. So that's all we got. Oh, basketball games that we missed last week, we have rescheduled those. They're clear at the end of the season, so hopefully we don't get any more snow days because we literally have no more days. But next year we get to add 3 more basketball games into this schedule somewhere, so good deal.
Well, we wrapped up December with our assessments, winter assessments, that I put all that information in my board report. We also held our grandparents music bingo with Cottonwood, and thank you high school for letting us host it over there because we get so many participants that it's impossible to hold it in one of our gyms, and it's a great event. The grandparents have a lot of fun, so great event. We also wrapped up the semester with our epic Christmas car line. We even had Mr. Meek there in his suit, which kids were excited, and as were staff, to see him be part of that. And then we added something new this year. We always have the students in the gym, but after they come in, they go in the gym and they can watch the live stream of it. And so we had some staff competitions in their Christmas outfits, and it was a lot of fun. So as far as this semester, getting ready to start our next set of Panther clubs. We've got some new ones this year. We've got Ken Barker is joining one of our 4th grade teachers, Melinda Pitzer, and doing some woodworking. So students will be building some birdhouses. We've got some drones, and Mrs. Snyder and Mrs. Patterson are going to do another production this spring with one of our Panther Club groups. So busy already.
Well, we're at Cottonwood. We also had a festive December with the 12 days of Christmas and Jingle Jam, classroom parties and all that. But I'm most excited, as fun as all that was, to just highlight some of our assessment scores. Now, these are not the things that kindergartners remember. They're not going to go home and say, I really rocked that reading test, Mom. They're going to come home and talk about the classroom parties and all the fun dress-up days. But these are meaningful scores nonetheless, and just to highlight a few things. In 2nd grade, our students to begin the year with that were in the high-risk category. So that would be, if you think of that as the students that are lower reading scores, that decreased from 40 to 32%. So we saw some growth there. In the low-risk category, so that would be the higher achieving students, that jumped from 18 to 25%, which is good growth there. And aggressive growth, 42% of our 2nd graders demonstrated aggressive growth, which is the highest rate of growth that you can have category. So really a lot of good growth with our 2nd grade. Kindergarten and 1st grade jumped as well. They went in the college ready. It's hard to imagine kindergartners as college ready, but that's what they call it. In the college ready category, that jumped from 42% in the fall to 57%, so good growth there. And then in the some risk category, that fell, which is a good thing, from 45 to 29%. So those kids are making some great gains. And the kindergarten growth, last year at this time, we had 36% of our kindergartners were at benchmark. A year later, 66% of our students, or kindergarten students, are at grade level. So great growth there. First grade, good growth there. Last year, we had 33% of our first graders at this time last year. We're in benchmark this year, 48%. So excellent growth there. And then also, I'm excited to announce that that our winter benchmark reading scores overall, we're at an all-time high over the last 4 years. 2 years ago, it was at 27%. Last year was at 29%. This year it's at 46%. So tremendous growth for our grade school kiddos at Cotton. So I'm very proud of the students and the staff there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anything else for board acknowledgements? Okay, so I guess next up, we have our PHS Spirit Squad Proclamation and Recognition. Shall I read this? Okay. Whereas the Kansas State High School Activities Association sponsors a state championship for Spirit Squads each year for member schools to showcase their students' talents, and Paola High School, in an effort to develop a strong sense of school spirit, offers a Spirit Squad program to students. And whereas Unified School District 368 has been blessed with a particularly dedicated and highly talented group of student athletes and equally hardworking coaches, Mrs. Hannah Hasselquist and Mrs. Regina Hollinger have culminated in winning their third Acacia Class 4A State Game Day Cheer Championship in the last 4 years. Now, therefore, the Paola Unified School District 368 Board of Education does hereby proclaim this day of January 13th, 2025 as a day of recognition for the Paola High School Spirit Squad. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official USD 368 seal affixated this 13th day of January 2025. So congratulations, Spirit Squad.
Hannah, you're here. Regina's here.
Okay.
So,
Here you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank you.
joining us.
Thank you.
Congratulations. We're so happy to have you guys.
Thank you.
anything either of you want to say?
Well, we
Or some
definitely
seniors,
can't
or-
take the credit for this crew.
No.
I mean, they are very talented, very hardworking, and they went in with a goal at the beginning of the season after a 5th place win last year. And they knocked it out of the park with our highest scores. Some of the highest score in the state from 1st to 2nd place. We had the biggest lead across all class divisions, so we're very proud of them, and we
Yeah.
can't wait to see what they'll do in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. We also had every year we come up with a quote or something that we live by. This year we were locking it in, and we locked it in this year for sure. So. We did.
Congratulations. Especially seniors, I mean, you were here for all 4 years, so three out of 4 years. Very well deserved, and the freshmen, sophomore, and juniors, wow, you got a reputation to uphold now.
A little pressure.
Well, thank you.
We thank you so
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up we have information and discussion items. First of all, just a reminder, January 28th, there's a special board meeting at Paola Middle School at 7 a.m. As you know, we've started doing this year and visiting each school for one of our meetings. So again, that's the 28th at the middle school at 7 a.m. And then next up, we have RSP
Yep.
board member with Matt.
Yeah, so with us tonight, we have Rob Schwartz with RSP and Associates. We have worked with RSP on a couple different occasions. Probably about 5 or so years ago, they did an enrollment study for us that we have found useful and worked through. And then also, the reason Rob is here tonight is because every 10 years when there's a census done, then we have to make sure that our member districts, so for our Board of Education member districts, fall within the constraints of what needs to happen. And so they did that for us. Well, Mr. Schwartz contacted me probably a month ago or so, and some of their analysis, they actually found an error. And so he is here tonight to explain that, to kind of give a little bit of background, but then also how can we move forward with this. So the presentation is here and she can help advance it for you.
All right, outstanding. Good evening. Glad to be here with you this evening. I do have esteemed guests with me, my in-laws who live in your community, Gail and Mary Seibert. Funny thing, when we did work for them when they lived out in Garden City, they never wanted to come to the meetings I was at because it was redistricting and we were realigning students and I was not very popular. So this is not an unpopular thing. So let's see what we can do here.
I think you'll have to roll it.
All right, so there's information in this presentation so people will know who we are and what we do. Matt, thanks for that introduction to give some of that background. Again, the point of why I'm here this evening is that we need to write the size of our 3 board member districts. Really, a lot of this came about with the other district, right, 416. They're looking to do some different things with their board member districts, and they had a board member move. So when we were analyzing some of their stuff, we realized that there was a miscalculation in the mean of your populations. And so tonight I'm going to share with you what this means. So the first thing is we're mandated, as Matt said, with the Kansas statutes to make sure that our 3 districts are within a 5% population of each other. And so here we've listed off the Kansas statute that's in and what we need to follow with that. With the board member analysis, we have to follow census blocks, so they're even more unique than your district. So as we break them apart, there's different things that relate to the populations with the type of developments and what that means with the number of persons as it relates to the census population. Visuals to give you an understanding of first your district, and then our 3 board member districts are the purple, green, and blue. And so that represents where you can actually be a member representative from. With the calculation of the census data, this gives us that we have a range of 3,500 persons in District 3 to more than 4,300 persons in District 2. And so we'll talk about what this means as we break this down. We'll show you what it means with ethnicity. That's lesser of an issue. It's really trying to get the populations balanced. So when we look at the map with the data that I just showed you, with District 3, it means we need more persons in that district. So they're underrepresented in that balance. Whereas District 2 has too many persons. So we created 2 scenarios. So I told Matt I want to make sure that we make things right with how you represent this. So this is at no additional cost for you guys. We feel like it's the right thing to do. And so we created 2 different districts, or 2 different options. And in scenario 1, it minimizes what some of the change could be to just District 2 and District 3. Let me show you a visual of that. So basically what we end up doing, I gave a description on the previous slide. If we take Lone Star Road and come down to 169 and then take Old KC Road up, that is moved into District 3. So that's the only change that happens. When we look at that enrollment, that gets us within the 5% of persons that would be in each of the 3 districts. So think about it, that's the easiest thing that we can do to get us within that 5%. We created a second scenario that looks at trying to get a better balance where we're like closer to, let's say, 1% difference between all 3 districts. Now, the visual here, it's more zoomed in. I made sure I had to check, as you know, the cemetery is right there on the south side of Bull Creek. And when we moved that census block, it went up, and I was like, oh no, we can't be counting people that are dead, right? It's not Chicago. So there's actually in that census block some of those apartments that are on Gold Streets. They're in that census block that moves up into District 3. And then we also come north on Lone Star Road up to, I believe, 278th, I think, and then over to Bull Creek. And so this takes from District 1, pulls down to District 3, and then District 3 also expands a little bit in the core part of the town to address, again, getting more kids. And so that's along falling east on Gold Street to Oak Street and then Ottawa Street. So that square segment that's right about where my cursor is. So what that does for our population totals is that gets us, look at this, within 5, 3, and 2 persons. So this gives you like a basically equal grouping. The first scenario I provided you meets the standard of Kansas statutes. This here gets you where you're basically equal in all 3 of those districts. That's the end of my presentation. So questions that you guys have. I know tonight you're not going to vote on this, but I wanted to at least get this presented to you, showed you 2 viable options. You will have the PDF of this. You can zoom in and look at some of these specifics. Again, we're following census blocks, so we're kind of handcuffed on what changes we made based on the census blocks. But our team felt that these 2 scenarios get you something that puts you within the requirements of the Kansas statutes and sets you up for probably a long time to come with either one that you choose, to not have to maybe do any sort of changes until the next decennial census, maybe even longer.
Board members have questions, because Ms. Schwartz is actually going to, we do have this as a potential action item during that portion of the meeting, but he is going to leave us after this presentation. So if we have questions, we want to make sure that we address that now. And then I do have a question. So the board makes a decision. What's the next step then when they decide, okay, this is what we want to do?
Good question. So we would create your legal description, and that legal description would go to Miami County to be able to be filed, and then whenever candidates file for, let's say, the board positions, they would have also a GIS layer, so a mapping layer that would coincide with that legal description. So when you are in one of those 3 districts, you know which district you're in and which district that you would be trying to get maybe one of your seats or go against you guys.
Which of the 2 has more county residents in District 3 is what I'm trying to figure out, because when you cut into that little section down that has more city, or that goes into District 2, you also pull in some counties, so I was wondering which one has more county versus city residents.
Between those 2 scenarios, I wouldn't know that offhand. I can maybe do, I think 2 would have more. Well, actually, since we're taking that piece in the city, it's probably a little bit of this that comes out of the city and county, and so that percentage, when I look at scenario 2, there's probably more county persons than there would be city persons in scenario 2, just with that change. That would just be my initial thing of knowing that there's this little piece right here that is city persons that then gets pulled into District 3.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions? Thank you for coming, and I will be in touch with you tomorrow.
All right, thank you. You guys have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have open forum. And we're going to call you up based on just when you turned in your open forum form. So I will just call the names and you can come up to the podium, and I guess you don't have to say your name again since I'll be saying it, but you can if you want to. And each person will have a 5-minute timer, which is your time to speak and share with us, and then that's it. So, okay, so the first form I have is Kaden Griffith. Heisey? Okay. So if you'd like to come on up. And whenever you're ready.
Thank you. My name is Kaden Griffith Heisey. I am 16 years of age, and I am a sophomore in high school. I have known I was queer since I was in the 5th grade and have been out since I was in the 5th grade. I felt safe enough to come out due to the fact that my parents were so open about their marriage, which is a marriage between 2 women. And I have known from an early age that no matter who I am or what I am or what I identify as, they will always support and love me. Throughout my life, I have always had security in knowing that my family, my extended family, my friends, and everyone in my inner circle will support me no matter what. There are many, many queer kids who do not have this privilege. The decision to have the safe zone posters removed could hurt so many children who are LGBTQ or know someone who is LGBTQ. Studies have shown that over 40% of trans kids who do not receive support for their identity commit suicide or attempt suicide. Not 4, not 14, 40% of trans kids. Safe zones save lives. Safe zones are incredibly important for every minority. Throughout history, minorities who have not had places to be safe will create their own safe places. And we will find comfort in each other rather than in our oppressors. The posters could have saved someone's life. The posters could have given someone a safe space that they do not have at home. This decision affects everyone you know. Whether you like it or not, someone you know could be queer, and someone you know could realize that you do not support them, and that you think that their existence does not deserve to have a poster that advertises their safety and that advertises that they are allowed to exist as they are in this space. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Elie Blackmore.
It's Elsie.
Elsie, sorry, excuse me.
This top one's yours and yours can go to the.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Elie Blackmore, and I'm a junior at Iowa High School. In front of you have text for the majority of the speeches you will hear tonight, as well as policies referenced and a petition from the student body asking that these signs be put back up. There's about 166 names on those petitions altogether. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I participate in volleyball and swim. I do debate, forensics, theater, art, so I would like to consider myself a pretty well-involved student at the high school. So when I heard that these signs were being taken away, I felt upset by the injustice that I feel many of my friends face by taking down these signs. So as many of you know, right before we went on break, the safe zone signs at our school were taken down due to a ban issued by the school board. I'm asking that the board rescind their ruling on this decision on the grounds of safety in the high school. I firmly believe that both the folks here tonight and the board members are here tonight because we care about our community's influence on our children. Protection of our kids, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, is something that we all make a priority. I also believe this to be true due to the school board BH policy titled School Board Member Ethics, quote, remember that always the first and greatest concern must be the educational welfare of the students attending the public schools, that the school board holds the safety of our students in high regard. Though that may be true, according to the GED's Foundation analysis of the CDC's 2023 Youth Risk Behavior Survey, suicide is the second leading cause of death for teens and young adults ages 10 to 34. 22% of high school students reporting having seriously considered suicide in the past year. Of that 22%, lesbian, gay, or bisexual teens made up almost half at 45%. Following that, 10% of high school students attempted suicide in the last year. Of that 10, lesbian, gay, or bisexual teens were the majority again at 22%. This was the first year that the CDC had a selection for the LGBTQ community on their survey, and the results should heed warning to all of us here. We have all heard the tale of a small town being torn apart by the tragic death of a young person in that community, but probably don't think it would happen here. I'm here to tell you, you are wrong. Take, for example, the suicide of Marcus Wayman, a closeted gay kid in rural Pennsylvania, a town about the same size as ours. He was a very sociable kid. He played football. He showed up to many different school events in support of his classmates. He was adored by his friends, family, and neighbors. But when he was faced with being outed by an authority member in his community, within an hour of the altercation, he went home and shot himself in the head. He was 18 years old, not much older than many of us here in front of you tonight, and not much older than myself. According again to the CDC, kids in the LGBTQ community are 4 times more likely to commit suicide compared to their straight counterparts. This is due to the heightened experiences of harassment, uncertainty of acceptance, and stigma, or for the sake of simplicity, we can call it bullying, that they face every single day. The school board has a number of policies, for example, the USD368 bullying plan, put in place to deal with these situations. While that looks good on paper, it is not a foolproof plan. Many teenagers are afraid to speak up when struggling with bullying. I've struggled with it, my friends have struggled with it, and the youth in that survey struggled with it too. Sorry. Now, that is not to say that adults in our community are not working to solve the problem, because they are, but by having those signs put in the classroom, it further solidifies for the LGBTQ+ community within our high school that their safety is valued, and that they have an adult, whether that be a teacher, staff, or administrator, there to advocate and stand up for them. While these signs are also not 100% foolproof, they still help to fight the stigma that the things that make kids within the queer community unique is a bad thing, when it isn't. It's a place, for many kids within the queer community, especially within Paola, school is an escape. It's a place they can go to be with their friends and surround themselves with people who care about them. By taking away those signs, you were telling a whole demographic of kids at our school, a number I estimated around to be 10% or 75 to 90 students, that their safety is not valued. That when they are faced with discrimination from others at the school, they have no one to turn to. I know this is not what you believe, or you did not mean for this ban to be taken this way. But the decisions you make here are to reflect the values of our community, and I think that we can all agree that the values of our community are to keep our kids safe and protected. So, I ask you, if this displays too much, then what is enough? What can we do to make this acceptable? Because we need to let these kids know that that we care about them and that they deserve to be safe. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Bethany Fannin.
Good evening, my name is Bethany Fannin, and
and I'm a senior in high school. I, like many of you, have lived and have been a part of this community my whole life. That's why I feel so betrayed by the Safe Zone sign ban in the high school. These signs are a subtle reminder that I mattered even when I did not always feel like it. I am reminded that I had people around me that would care about me no matter what. The last few years of my time at Paola High School, I felt safe enough to be myself before I became more open about my sexuality. My first time that I wanted that people around me to know that I am lesbian. And I shouldn't have to hide it. I wanted people around me to feel like I am accepted. I am very lucky to have people in my life that have stood by me since that happened. But for many, that is not always the reality. Now, according to the JG policy titled Student Welfare, this district will endeavor and provide a stable environment and favorable to the general health, safety, and welfare of each student in the school attendance and school-sponsored activities. Because it says each student, I believe that you are supposed to pass your policies with the student like me in mind as well. I feel as your discussion to ban these signs failed to meet your policy. That discussion now tells me that many other people like you do not care if you feel safe or not, and that we do not deserve to go to school without the fear of being bullied, attacked, or because of our queerness. According to the Trevor Project, LGBTQ+ young people who have reported a preference of trusted adults in their school have higher levels of self-esteem, and access to support and peers is protected against anxiety, depression, including among those who lack support from their family. I feel this to be true. I generally do not think, without from the support I have received from many of my classmates and my teachers, that I could not have the courage to stand in front of you tonight and stand up for myself. To tell you that I do not deserve to be singled out, that no student, child, or to reserve to be picked on. I mean, could you imagine a minute kicking your own children out for your home just because they felt comfortable enough to tell you that they were gay? How about threatening them with violence? My guess is, and hope, that you probably would not. This issue of many kids within our community face and deal with every day. By taking away these signs, these kids have no one to turn to now, as if they've heard tonight that happens, those kids turn to a knife or gun to solve their problems permanently. I think that everyone has to agree that the community cannot afford the death of a young person right now, or ever. However, according to the Trevor Project research has found that LGBTQ young people who found their school and home to be LGBTQ affirming reported lower rates of attempted suicide. I am here tonight to ask you to take back the ban and placed according to the VH policy titled to school board member ethics. Recognize that I should endeavor to make policy decisions after full discussion and publicly held board meetings. After asserting the minutes from your recent meetings that October through December that this issue IFA policy classroom display was not even talked about or on the agenda during the meeting. According to the policy, the ban has to be valid, but aside from that, the sign should go back up to make students feel safe. To remind the kids like myself to walk down those hallways 5 days a week, that when they go to the school, they are allowed to be themselves. That we can receive the same education as everyone else without feeling like we have a target on our backs. This is something I cannot change about myself, and I do not want to. I know that people care about me, and it was with those signs and affirming teachers that I've learned this before it is too late. Everyone on the board has a choice to make a difference in our school. You have the chance to show students to stand for what you care and not just to push your own agendas on the schools. I would like to ask you if the IFA policy will be discussed at the next meeting. I hope it is, and I hope that everyone in our community can work towards making our schools as safer for all of our students. Thank you.
Next we have Kenley Matthews.
Is everyone ready?
My name is Kenley Matthews. I'm a recent graduate from Paola High School's class of 2024. I am 18 and I am now a freshman in college who is majoring in fine arts. I left PHS being proud of the accomplishments that took place during my 4 years, some of which I was involved with. Some of the amazing things that happened during my time at Paola. The cheer team won 2 back-to-back state championships. The band received 4 consecutive Division I ratings. The theater troupe was selected to take a production to Kansas Thespian Festival twice, and one of those productions was further selected to be performed at International Thespian Festival. The forensics team had countless individual and team-wide first-place wins, and many students who are now state medalists due to the success of the program. I left with a sense of accomplishment for the things that I personally had a hand in, but also for my peers, who did great things in all fields of activities. I am now saddened to be from here. I am gay. This is something that I knew during all 4 of my years at Paola High. My experience with acceptance is more complex than most of yours probably is, and those signs had a direct impact on me in my feeling of comfort and safety while attending school. The signs were never really talked about. It was never a class announcement of gay acceptance. It was simply a sign for those who needed it to find solace in, a silent reminder that they were safe. I don't like assumptions, but if I were to ask everyone in this room and on the school board the question, did you ever experience fear due to your identity while at school? I would feel secure in saying no. Most of you probably did not experience that. That is a fear that I experienced in the hallways of Paola. What I'm talking about, high school is an insecure time period for most individuals. You may have been worried about how you were perceived, if so-and-so liked you, how your physical appearance looked, and which clique you fell into. What I am talking about is fear. Fear that you will be exposed and ridiculed for something that is already so confusing to yourself and out of your control. Fear that those around you will no longer be there due to something so out of your control. Fear that you will forever be treated differently by those who are supposed to be relatable to you. This is a fear that I experienced, but this is also a fear that was eased by silent reminders. The safe zone signs. I'm a much more assured and confident person than I was in high school, but the only reason that has been able to happen is because of the semblance of acceptance that I managed to find and hold on to here. This entire situation brings up one prominent question in my mind. What is the school board's goal for the kids it is raising and will eventually send out into society? Is it leadership? A strong moral compass? A sense of respect and acceptance for others? An open mind that is allowing of growth and challenge? Because if you were to ask me, I would say all of those are qualities that I find myself now using and hold invaluable as someone this school has turned out into society. The action of taking down those signs is in no way representative of the above qualities. You want leadership? With time, there will be fewer people, gay people, who could stand here and do what I'm doing right now. You want kids that will stick to their moral code and are able to be self-assured? Well, right now you're taking away the safety required in order for one to be comfortable to stand on who they are and what they believe in. You want kids to be empathetic and kind? Right now you are showing them that there is only one correct narrative and that nothing else should be given the comfort or time of day. You want kids that have an open mind and will go on to be lifelong learners? Right now you are getting rid of something that challenges your own beliefs instead of being able to coexist, completely destroying conversations of open dialogue where multiple perspectives are valued. Kids feeling safe at school is not and should not be political. This shouldn't have anything to do with how you feel about LGBTQ people in general. This should be about putting your beliefs aside to better create an environment that serves and uplifting students of all kinds. Thank you for your time.
Angelina LeBlanc.
Hello, and good evening. My name is Angelina Blank, and I'm a senior here at Paola High School. I would like to start off by sharing what Safe Zone posters are, what they do, and what they represent. After doing some research of this topic, I gathered from the American Federation of Teachers, Safe Zones or Safe Space stickers, which first started appearing in the 1990s and of which there are many versions, serve an important symbolic function in that they announce to students without the need for any discussion that these educators are in one way or another LGBTQ+ friendly. If you go onto the Kansas State Department of Education website, you will find their safety poster resources. There are multiple graphics that advocate for safety of students and to encourage them to speak up in acts of threats, bullying, or violence. However, it is difficult for many students, especially those within the queer community, to find the courage and speak up in many situations that contain threats, bullying, or violence. This is due to the fear of their current situation, either with their aggressor's behavior or not feeling comfortable enough to talk to someone about the issue. Students see and understand the attempts by school staff to encourage students to speak up in times of trouble and record any incidents that involve them or their peers. However, no matter how much it is encouraged, realistically, the majority will never speak up. If a person feels completely safe and feels even the smallest amount of control in a situation they normally do not have any control in, they may reach out for someone to help. This is where the Safe Zone signs act as a precaution in any matter where it is better to be safe than sorry. I know that even if these signs only help a few students in any real way, that is still a few students who have bettered their situations for themselves, with the knowledge that they were in a safe zone. The CDC states that schools can empower students and help protect their physical and mental health. They can do this by ensuring that school environments are healthy, safe, and supportive, particularly for the most vulnerable young people. With that, as my friend mentioned previously, and as it was mentioned above, kids with the LGBTQ+ community are far more susceptible to experiencing harassment or violence at school. While I agree with the school board on their IFA policy titled Classroom Displays that classrooms are not public forums for the display or distribution of political, religious, or personal viewpoints, I do not agree that any of those reasons are why the safe zones were put up. Safe zones simply communicate to the students in those classrooms that if you are a member of the LGBTQ community, that the educator in that classroom will not tolerate discrimination against them, will advocate for them, and help to educate their peers in the process. Those signs simply represent that a specific group of kids are safe to be themselves and are respected and appreciated within that space. We see similar practices throughout our school that communicate that message to other groups of kids. FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, or the yellow ribbon posters, suicide awareness, or any type of sign promoting an extracurricular activity. The signs also allow kids to connect with other students with similar beliefs under the supervision of teachers, making sure they feel safe doing so. The Safe Zone signs do the same thing. Why is it okay for other groups of students to receive this support when others are told they cannot because of who they are? This is an issue that I think we can overcome together because we all want one thing, and that is for every kid attending Paola Public Schools to feel uplifted by their community, which brings me to this statement made by the AFT. Recent political progress and shifts in public attitudes about LGBTQ issues suggest it is an opportune time for educators and policymakers to move beyond safe and create schools that affirm LGBTQ students and integrate respect for LGBTQ identities through multiple aspects of school life. I believe, having read multiple different policies issued by the school board, that this statement reflects the values of this community that you, the members, represent. The adults in our community send their kids to this school so that they can be educated in an environment that is safe and encourages creativity, innovation, and respect in kids. They do this so that our children may grow up to be well-informed, hard-working members of society. I know our teachers work very hard every day to make sure that this happens, but extra precautions are still needed. In today's world, teens and young adults face so much uncertainty. This leads to higher stress and anxiety amongst many of them. many of us. By allowing those signs to go back up, it is reminding students that they need not worry about who they are and where they come from, but that they are accepted and loved by their community and people they interact with every day. This district has the opportunity to be a part of change, a movement. By allowing these signs, you are telling these students that they matter. They can achieve more and become more themselves every day. They can do and be anything. It shows schools around us that we make our students our first priority, that we are ready to invest in our future, that we will fight tooth and nail to make sure that every student has the reassurance, self-confidence, and support they need to make a change in the world. When can we expect the adults of our community to rectify this situation for the kids in our school? Thank you for listening.
Liliana Avila, thank you.
Ready?
Whenever you are.
Hello everyone, my name is Liliana Avila. I'm a senior here at Hill High School. Like the rest of us standing here in front of you today, we recognize the numerous violations the school board has made in order to withdraw the safe zone signs within the classrooms. These signs have been up since my freshman year and many years before that. It was never an issue until now. The specific policy that was used in the takedown of these signs can be found under Section I, Instructional Program, and the USD number 368 policies, specifically under IFA. Adopted January 9th of 2023, a member of the school board asked that all safe zone signs be taken off the walls or doors of the classrooms. These signs were taken down before or during our finals week. The last week we were in high school before winter break, a group of individuals watched their safety be taken down. I stand here today to ask, demand, that these signs be returned to the classroom and to the students. According to the National Institutes of Health, safe zones seek to promote NIH community awareness and education about the needs and concerns of people who identify as sexual and gender minorities, represented by the acronym SGM. We encourage everyone to show support for and actively affirm colleagues and friends who are SGM. Safe zones not only promote a safe space to freely express oneself, but it also can be a safe haven for students who face rough home lives and seek refuge. These signs make children feel safe in times of hardship. In a world surrounded by hate speech and war, these places and classrooms provide comfort in this cruel world. By taking these signs away, you yourselves are in violation of the general school admission, specifically the CB ethics. The section states, the administrator, making the well-being of students the basis for decision-making and action, fulfills professional responsibilities with honesty and integrity, supports the principle of due process and requires by law and protects the civil and human rights of all individuals, avoids using a position for personal gain. These students who identify as LGBTQ+ individuals watch as their safety and protections be stripped away off the walls of our school. We as individuals have to endure bullying, hate speech, and even being called slurs behind our backs as you tore our safe classrooms from us. Despite the numerous signs around the school that have signs of the cross and big religious holiday we were approaching at the time of this takedown, no religious holiday celebrations or drawing were taken down despite them violating the same policy. As a school board, one of the promises you make is to always ensure the safety and wellness of the students you are protecting. Highlighted in Section B, School Board Operations, under BH, it states, remember always that this first and greatest concern must be the educational welfare of the students attending the public schools. You have just lost a group of children who have to listen to the hate from other students just because of who they love. So, I and many other students affected by this ask you, who is next? If our efforts and speeches do nothing to change your minds, then what minorities will be next until you are satisfied? Thank you.
Taylor Thornburg.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm a proud Cottonwood. as mom. Sorry, it's a little emotional topic. According to CNN, as of December 16, 2024, there had been at least 83 school shootings in the United States. 56 of these incidents occurred on K-12 school grounds, resulting in 38 deaths and at least 116 injured. This tragic reality means that a parent sent their child off to school in the morning, never to see them alive again. A spouse said goodbye to their loved one, unaware that it would be their last moment together. I propose that in 2025, we prioritize enhancing security for our students and teachers. One important step we can take is to add metal detectors to every school. Metal detectors can not only detect concealed weapons, but also serve as a psychological deterrent. Students, teachers, and potential intruders are less likely to bring weapons onto school grounds if they know there is a possibility of detection. Do I believe that metal detectors are the only solution to ensure the safety of our students and teachers? No, but they are a step in the right direction. I would much rather have metal detectors in our school system and never need them than face a situation where we wish we had them. At that point, we may have lost a child, a friend, a parent, a sibling, or a community member. Short and sweet.
Thank you. Thank you.
Matt Blackie. If I'm saying your name wrong, I apologize.
Good evening. My name is Matt Blackie. Thank you for the opportunity of speaking this evening. I have 6 kids that have either gone through or are currently attending USD368. So therefore I'm aware of many of the discussions that are involved around safe zones. One thing I do know, and what I've picked up even here tonight, there's a lot of difference in opinion of what that word actually means. When I asked my kids, I got several different answers even this afternoon about the discussions that they had during the school day. One thing I know is that the idea of safe zones, I believe they cause division, and they don't promote a good well-being and mental health. It has been my personal experience with, even in my own family, that to be the case. The idea of safe zones infer that we have areas in our school that are unsafe. If I believed that, I would pull my kids out. And that's, I mean, it would happen immediately. I believe the idea of safe zones are a distraction from our real purpose. USD368 should absolutely challenge its students every day to excellence, to reject mediocrity, which is permeating our culture everywhere. We should never have the idea or the attitude that, well, it's just good enough. We need excellence. And I just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And that is all of our open forums for this evening. Thanks again for everybody for speaking. Next up, we have action items, and Matt.
Yeah, so the first action item that we have this evening is to approve the board member district adjustments. As Mr. Schwartz presented, he gave you 2 different scenarios. I don't know that one scenario is necessarily better than the other. There's give and take. If you were to ask me, I would probably say scenario 2, but this is only because it gets each of the districts almost exact, from within 5, I believe it's like 2 above and 3 below, so you can't get much closer than that. That would be the only reason. Again, this would be every 10 years, so the 2030 census, we would be starting to look at this. The information usually lags a year or 2 after the census is completed, but there would probably not have to be any adjustments then. There may not have to be any adjustments for the 2040 census unless we start getting some more growth and so forth. So my recommendation would be scenario 2 on only from, that gets us the closest, and no other reason. Scenario 1 is fine too, so.
A motion to approve scenario 2.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve scenario 2. All of those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, thank you. Next, we need to appoint negotiation team members.
Yeah, so on this would be for negotiations this spring. I would also say that in addition to negotiation team members, historically, the board is appointed 2 to represent the board. We also need to, we have a supplemental committee where a board member can sit on that committee as well if there's a potential. The ADs chair that committee, so that would be one. And then also we've had from last year's negotiations to start talking about leave time from make it more of a PTO type situation. And so on this, the 2 that are nominated could fill all of those roles. There's nothing that says they have to. So I've given you more than what you anticipated. So we need 2 people for negotiations, and then it would determine if we want to have somebody separate for the supplemental committee and the PTO or the leave committee, or it can be the same 2.
I don't mind doing it again, since I did it last year. I don't remember the PTO and the supplemental being part of.
The supplemental was not, so every year we have a standing supplemental, and so if there are clubs or if there's other, for instance, an example would be we added girls soccer. Okay, that didn't have to go through supplemental because we already have a sponsorship for like a head or an assistant soccer coach.
Yeah.
But if we had not had soccer at all, and so we added that sport, then there would be a need to determine what that recommendation is for negotiations for that percentage of that. Darren, you're the one, you do have a supplemental request probably for an activity.
National Art Society.
Okay.
We have a, I'll just look at out of bag, that's okay?
Yeah.
We have a sponsor who's going to resign that position. It's an unpaid position right now. But she, in resigning it, is suggesting that it should be a paid position for just a little bit of a stipend. I think there's between, she thought 30 to 60 hours worth of work involved in that. And so that would come to the committee. We discuss it, and then as a committee, we don't approve it or not. We just decide, does it go on to negotiations or not, as a committee. So we don't get to say, yeah, they shouldn't, or no, they shouldn't. We just say, yeah, this is worthy of going on negotiations. So.
And how it would fall within the framework of the current
So
percentages or
they
pay
give a
structure.
recommendation for.
It's a recommendation, so saying, hey, we
Percentage
don't
or
think
whatever.
this warrants it, or yes, it does. It's
And
that committee just.
we would suggest this amount.
And this may be where it falls on the list of.
Right.
Okay.
I nominate Amanda Gerken.
Do we do one at a time or 2 together? Do one at a time or 2?
That's up to you.
I would nominate Samantha.
I'll second Amanda.
Yes.
2 motions.
Okay, so
And a second. Wait, 2 seconds.
They seconded each other.
Okay, I didn't hear that. Samantha seconded me, I seconded her. Okay, perfect. do we need to decide on the other ones as well, or?
You can just tell me if.
I don't mind doing them.
I mean, we work
What
with your
time?
schedule,
Yeah,
so.
okay, then yeah, if I can, because I'm kind of busy until April. But yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, I mean, for that, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, if you want to, I mean, if for instance, you couldn't, I mean, Amanda could come back, because again, this is a committee that you're trying to determine framework on what could potentially go, a recommendation or not, to the full negotiation. So it's trying to work the framework, and to be honest with you, there's some framework kind of from a few years ago, and so I don't
Yeah,
really want to
a
speak
lot
for
of it,
that.
a lot of it, we did one, I think, it was either 2 or 3 years ago, last time we actually put one through. We did a lot of it through email, because it was hard to get that many people, available. It's not a time-consuming commitment.
And as far as the leave time, I mean, it would be the same. They, a couple of years ago, there was that conversation, and so I don't know that that would be, I mean, I think we can work with that, but if not, then we can, I think we can just work with it.
So now we need to vote on it?
Yep.
And can we do it all as one vote? Or do we need to vote on each of them separately?
I think probably that was separate.
Do separate.
I got two
Okay,
motions.
first we had
Let's say
Amanda,
separately.
so we'll do, just to keep it easy. we'll
Yes,
do-
please.
Okay. There was a motion and a second for Amanda to be nominated to be on the negotiation team. All of those in favor, raise your hand. And secondly, there was a motion and a second for Samantha to be appointed to the negotiation team. All of those in favor, raise your hand. Okay. And then lastly, we're going to approve the KASB recommended board policy updates, and Matt has more information on that for us. I guess not quite lastly, but.
These are recommendations for policies from the Association of School Boards. There's some forms. One of them is that was recommended that I did not include, which we, for the sake of, one is an organizational chart. We've just not had that in the past. Not that an organizational chart is a bad thing, we have one, but it just currently is not part of policy. And so, because we've gone along without it, I thought that that's the reason for me not stating that we need to, or what have you. And another one that was presented that I would recommend not adopting, and that is, I would recommend adopting policy DFAC, which deals with federal fiscal compliance. But there are there's some forms, I believe they are called sample procedures. We actually have procedures in place. I don't like when you say the word sample or sample procedure and you put it in policy, it becomes a little bit different. And so I believe that the policy DFAC covers us, but that the sample procedures can be used as maybe resources, but not an actual policy. I guess we heard tonight and so forth, you always want, when you put in policy, you always want to try to think through every scenario, and what I've learned is that that's probably next to impossible, but here's the recommendations that I have. I'm happy to answer questions that you may have. Some of them are just cleaning up, and then others are for due to some statute or federal changes.
Are any of them on a time restraint as to approval tonight, or none of them are urgent?
None of them are urgent.
Because
I don't think so. I mean, if and that's something that we can, and actually this is something we've talked about where we've done it a couple different ways where you know, I present it one month and you vote on it the next month. We've done it the same. It makes no difference to me on how we do it. I don't think that there's any
There's a lot to
currently,
read through.
there's any currently that are time constraints. So if we want to, you know, if the board desires to not do anything tonight and bring it back, say in February or March, something, that's fine too.
With the amount they were, that would make it a lot better to be able to just go through them and make sure that they're, I mean, I sent you a list of
Sure.
questions anyway, but,
Right.
if it's, I motion to move it for approval to February's meeting.
That's fine.
A second. Okay, so a motion and a second to move the approval for the KASB recommended board policy updates. All of those in favor, as to pushing this to February, please raise your hands. Okay, and now lastly, approve the resolution to continue reorganization of the board at the July board meeting.
Yeah, so, with the board, quite a few years ago now, has made the decision to reorganize, meaning electing a president and a vice president of the board at the July meeting. Statute says we have that ability, but that we need to, in January, make a motion to state that. So this is truly just to continue with the reorganization occurring in July. And the reason that we've continued with that is that way, it just goes with our fiscal year.
So do we have a motion to approve resolution to continue reorganization of the board at the July board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving resolution to continue reorganization of the board at the July board meeting, raise your hands, please.
I will say, Laura Lee, before you leave, Laura Lee actually has that resolution where she needs board member signature, so I believe it's being passed around now. So make sure you sign it for everyone.
And I guess last of all, we need a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
All of those in favor of adjourning?